Not bad. But you gotta work on your follow-through.
Ready for a tongue lashing? Yoshi's loose with juicier levels, tastier moves, and dripping with attitude. Yoshi's Story, for the first time on N64.
I think you're getting the hang of it.
Welcome to Remember 64, where this week we not only try to get back the happy tree, oh no, we're going all out, and we're joining up with little colorful dinos to rescue the super happy tree. Welcome to the show, everyone. My name is David Petrangelo, and this week on Remember 64, we're playing and chatting Yoshi's Story. Matt Stormagddon is back again. You may have heard them on level 20 of the podcast, where we played Buck Bumble, one of their childhood favorites. You should check that out. It's yet another game that I hadn't played before now, and I still have to say it is one of my favorites on the show thus far. Quickly off the top, as per usual, you can check us out and support the show at patreon.com/remember64show. You can get every single episode early, including video content, days and weeks early as well. But, if Patreon's not your thing, not a big deal. We have a few extra tidbits that are being out on Patreon, but no big deal. We also have a YouTube channel where you can find those videos that will be released after their Patreon release. And then also, feel free to give us a rating on your podcast app of choice, more specifically Apple and Spotify, if you get a chance. Would love to hear what you think and would love to see those star ratings go up so more and more people can join us through this journey of the Nintendo 64 library. Remember 64 is proud and oh so happy to be a part of the Tokyo Beat Podcast Network.
In today's age, you need a podcast you can trust. That's why you need Hair of the Dogcast, entertaining and well-informed discussions on both video games and beer. Meet our local podcast team. Dylan.
I'm out here on the street, Brad, and everyone's clamoring for better podcasts.
Our new rookie correspondent, Tyler.
I play The Witcher.
And I'm Brad, and I'm slowly learning to hate myself in video games. And Dylan's reporting to us live from Kingdom Hearts 3.
There's a lot of Frozen here. Too much Frozen.
Hair of the Dogcast is a podcast you can trust on your favorite podcast app every Wednesday or whenever I decide to post it. Only on the Tokyo Beat Podcast Network.
All right, let's bust out the history books, everyone.
I'm learning.
We're heading back to March of 1998. Yoshi's Story was originally titled Yoshi's Island 64, yes, a more direct reference or sequel to Yoshi's Island for the Super Nintendo, and it was also being developed for the 64DD expansion drive at the time for the console. We all know that did not work out. In 1996, when the game was first showed off at Nintendo Space World, Shigeru Miyamoto said the 2D format was necessary to create the artistic style and graphics the development team wanted. It was also the belief from the dev team that showing off the 2D capabilities of the Nintendo 64 was important, making sure people knew the shift to the new hardware wasn't going to limit the kind of games that would be available when it was released. On all accounts, the game progressed quite well, with the Japanese version hitting its release date of December of 1997, but some issues did arise from the street date, as reviews were mostly positive, but did note the lack of difficulty and some of its shortcomings. So, Nintendo did its thing. They stuck their heels in and delayed the North American and European versions of Yoshi's Story to add some polish. Now, this is just a few of the things that were changed, but changes to the egg blocks. In the Japanese version, those blocks were always green and white. In the others, they match the color Yoshi that you're currently playing. Some of the new hidden areas and items were added for rewards, graphical cleanup, and polish. And finally, in the Japanese version, you had to complete story mode in one sitting, while the international version saved your progress after each individual level so you can continue where you left off. Yoshi's Story is also the first game to feature a voice-recorded version of the little dino. Sure, technically Yoshi had a voice before, but these were created for this game and since then have mostly been used for the basis of Yoshi's voice in future games. Prior to the release, a promotional soundtrack was put out in North America titled, get this, Music to Pound the Ground To. And sure, this type of thing has also happened with records over the years, but they interestingly decided to create a disc that was shaped like Yoshi's head. Sounds cool and pretty unique and everything, but it also created a number of compatibility issues with players at the time. Today's show is brought to you by EPOS Gaming Audio, with a comprehensive lineup of both wired and wireless headsets, gaming amplifiers, microphones, and webcams. EPOS has everything you need to experience the power of audio. Like their H6 Pro lineup, which features two versions, an open or closed headset. The closed headset allows you to tap into exceptionally detailed audio and seals out ambient noise, while the open version delivers natural, high-fidelity audio with an incredible soundstage. Both headsets include a magnetic, detachable microphone and a sleek design that has no wild RGB configurations, just good design. Listeners can save 15% by visiting www.eposaudio.com/gaming and entering the code EPOSFriend15 at checkout. That is EPOS Audio, EPOSAUDIO.com/gaming, and entering the code EPOSFriend15, no spaces, no underscores, no points. All of that can be entered at checkout for a 15% discount. So with a delayed release date of March 9th, 1998 for international releases, Nintendo was developing some new commercials to air and planned an interesting launch campaign. First up, this ad aired on channels like Nickelodeon and Cartoon Network in North America.
It's all in the head movement.
In the body. The body.
Wait there! It's a process. Guide with your arm.
It was March 7th when Nintendo pre-launched the game in a town called Lizard Lick, North Carolina, with 1,300 residents who lived there at the time. This event featured contests and video terminals that would let people try out the game, so typical 90s fashion. Yoshi's Story was scheduled for the 9th, but was postponed one full day due to El Nino storms in the area. All right, enough about just me talking here. Let's bring in Matt. I'm really happy I had a chance to have them on the podcast once again, so I hope you enjoy our chat. Well, as usual, the guest has now arrived. We are turning the pages to the guest of Remember 64 this time around. You know them as Matt, aka Stormagddon. Matt, welcome back to Remember 64. So happy to have you here.
So happy to be back. I had so much fun talking about Buck Bumble and bestowing upon you the knowledge that the greatest title theme for a video game has already been made, and that we can all put our pencils down. But yeah, I mean, thank you for essentially coercing you into letting me back on your show to talk about one of my favorite games. I really appreciate it.
No, you know what? Like I said with Buck Bumble, I mean, it was a surprise for me because I'd never played it. I think, like I said during that episode, I knew of the cover and the cover art, and that was about it. Very similar story with Yoshi's Story, not gonna lie. So, it's great to be able to play all these games that someone has such a fond memory of, and be able to sort of like share that experience now years and years later. So more than happy to. And if anyone hasn't played Buck Bumble and has an opportunity to, we both highly recommend it. Yes. I tell you, Matt, like it is still like the biggest surprise of 2023 for me. We're sitting here almost halfway through 2023, and it is still one of the games that I've played new stuff. I've played other 64 games. I've played Super Nintendo titles. I've played, all this, I played the Metroid remastered, about a month ago. Like it's still up there. It is still up there. So you've already made at least the first 6 months of my year just because we've been able to play that game. So.
Hell yeah, love it.
So check your podcast feed for that. That was a really good time to talk about and to play for sure. So, this time we are talking about Yoshi's Story, and this was one of the ones that you had on your list that you wanted to revisit. I'm just gonna go to you first, and let's. Is there a particular memory for this one?
Yeah, so Yoshi's Story is one of those games that, like, in the early days of the N64, like I got my hands on every Nintendo title I could, like, especially since I didn't have a PlayStation, a lot of my friends did, and they had all these other third-party stuff, which, were obviously ran better than, like, try playing Resident Evil 2 on the N64. It works, but it's not great.
Oh, I have also an episode you can check out on the feed. Yeah, that was an experience. It's true. It works. It works. It's an interesting experience. The fact that it's even possible was enough for me to be like, wow, this is pretty cool just because of that. But yeah, no, perfect example though.
But yeah, Yoshi's Story is one of those games I got growing up that, like, I liked Yoshi. I'm a fan of the Yoshi series. I've played all of the games except for the Wii U game and the Switch game. I didn't have a Wii U, and the Switch game didn't get great reviews, so I haven't played those two, though I will eventually. But in the N64, I had already loved Super Mario World 2, Yoshi's Island, which apparently is considered a different franchise than the Yoshi's Story franchise because it's part of Super Mario World.
I mean, based on the way this one plays, I thought for sure they were linked together.
According to Wikipedia, at least, so who knows? Take it with a grain of salt. But yeah, so I remember getting it, and I had loved the Super Nintendo game. I was like, oh, a new Yoshi game, I'm going to buy it. And I really loved it. And, like, it's interesting revisiting it. It's definitely it's not a perfect game. I can see now as an adult why some people didn't love it. But I'm sorry, when you start the first stage, Yoshi marches in place and sings the theme music to the stage. Like, it's the cutest thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, I remember fondly playing it a bunch, beating it a bunch. I think the first couple of levels, like, I remembered when I replayed them, but the later stuff and the final boss battle, like, because I beat it over the weekend, I was like, I don't remember this at all, but I must have done it. But maybe I didn't. Maybe I never finished it. But yeah, I really love this game. And when I had realized, looking at your back catalog, that you hadn't talked about it, I was like, oh, I have to suggest it. Because it's an easy game to access, also because it's currently on the Nintendo Switch Online.
Yeah, exactly. That was a surprise. I mean, it's great that they have titles like this on there as well, I think, because this is a very easy to pick up and play type of game because it's pretty simple. It's not very difficult, or at least at parts it's not very difficult, and it's, not very long and stuff. So it's good. If kids have it, or they're using their older brother or sister or siblings or cousins or parents Switch, this is a perfect one to sort of hand to them and be like, here, this could be one of the games that I grew up with that you could definitely just get into as a younger generation gamer. So, so for me, I knew one person that owned this game, and she had this and a lot of, like, other Nintendo published titles that I never really played. Like, I think Mischief Makers is also Nintendo, but it's sort of like this really strange platformer game that, again, I only played like a few minutes here and there at her house because she's the only one I knew that had that game. So that's another game that definitely be very curious about what that game is like when we get to that on the list. But I think I might have played the first couple levels of this back in the day. I don't really remember it, but I definitely remember the pages when you get to the new stages and stuff, which are just so awesome. That was one of my favorite parts of the whole game, is just these giant pop-up book looking things that are just super animated and super friendly, and then the music, like you mentioned, in the background. Like, the presentation of this game, I think, is really what carries it in a lot of ways. I had lots. Man, Yoshi's Island is one of my favorite Mario games, one of my favorite Super Nintendo games. I have played that game so many times. I absolutely love it. So I was excited to give this a go for sure, just because of that. Just because I was like, oh, I remember this being somewhat similar. And in some ways it is. In some ways it isn't. I don't know. Is there like a particular part or aspect to the game, whether it's a presentation of the gameplay, that like really like it may have like latched on this time, or something that like sort of sparked your nostalgia a little bit? Or was it just like, oh yeah, this overall experience is just comforting to me?
I mean, I think what I mentioned before, that if you idle in the game, Yoshi will kind of march in place and bum 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 to the theme music. And like also, I mean, it's definitely a presentation. I think like the eating the fruit around the edge of the screen, and like how you never had to finish a level per se. The way you finished it was by getting a certain amount of fruit. There wasn't like an end goal. There were sometimes boss battles that you could avoid, which was interesting.
Yeah, there's really not that many, because I think I avoided a couple of them because I was like, oh, I got the fruit. So I think the whole like fruit collecting thing. So if anyone hasn't played it, or if they're looking at videos or screenshots or something like that, you have to collect 30 fruit and they add up around the screen. They put a border around your screen, and when you get 30, you finish the level. So it really doesn't matter. I mean, you can't get them all in one screen or anything like that, like one area of each level, but once you get to that 30, you may miss another third or quarter or sometimes half of that stage, but you've technically completed it. So now you turn the page and stuff. And I feel like because this game isn't very long otherwise, there's really like, just over a dozen stages in total. That's a little bit of a replayability thing, is that you don't have to go to that stage next time, and you can go and collect fruit on stage 3 instead of 1, or go back to that same one and do it in a different way. And even though I got through the first sort of like run through of this game really quickly, not quite understanding that that's how it worked, I think I went through, 6 or 7 chapters or pages?
6, I think, yeah.
Yeah. And I went through and I was like, so I could just do this with just the fruit. Oh, there's multiple levels. So I was just clicking on, so when you open up a page, it's 1, 2, 3, sometimes 1 or 2. There's 2 stages, 3 stages per world, I guess you could call it. And I was just picking 1 the entire time. It's like, okay, I'll go to 2 next. It's 1, 2, 3. But no, you do 1, you finish it, it flips the page. And then you go to the next one, and you go to the next one. But then you can restart everything and collect everything all over again. And I thought that was pretty cool. I thought that was a good way to sort of encourage some more like exploration on a game that seems a little bit more straightforward otherwise. I don't know if you recognize that at all.
Yeah, I mean, I think I was a little confused. It had been a while since I played it, and I picked stage. I think the first page only has 1 stage.
Yeah.
And then the second stage has 2. The third one has 3, and then it alternates for the rest.
Yeah.
And on the second stage, I was like, all right, I'll do the first stage and go to the second stage. And then it took me to the next page, and I went, wait a minute. Oh, that's right. So like, but what's interesting also is like, I think it was the ghost house stage or the jungle stage. I can't remember. One of the stages, I got all the fruit and then fought a boss. Like, it took me to the boss battle, which is interesting. I think depending on the stage you pick. But yeah, I mean, I think it's really cute. You can finish this game in about an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours at the most if you're not going that fast. But yeah, I think that was by design. I think it was kind of this idea of like Mario games, you tend to replay them a lot, but you usually have to go through all the stages except for stuff like Super Mario World and Super Mario Brothers 3. You can like skip around, or like there are usually alternate paths.
Shortcuts and things, yeah.
Right. But in this, you pick a stage and do it, and then your next time through you'll do it again. And like, it's also like, it does some interesting things with the health, where like all the fruit you eat gives you health, but every playthrough there's like a super fruit that always refills your health, and then there are flowers that will refill your health but not give you eggs. All of the enemies give you eggs. I don't think the fruit gives you eggs. I can't remember. And there are egg blocks like in the other game where you can get eggs as well. But like, it also, like, for the most part, the platforming is pretty great. There are some stages that are worse than others, but for the most part, it's pretty intuitive. The controls are pretty good for a game of its age. I don't feel like it's aged that poorly. I feel like Super Mario World 2 and maybe even the later games control a little better, but I don't think it controls badly.
Yeah, same thing. I ran into a couple times where like the platforming where I was and I was playing on the Switch Online version, and it's, I don't know if I think it's because I've played Yoshi's Island, like Super Mario World 2, so many times. The jump, like the float jump that Yoshi now is sort of like iconic for, and in Smash and all these other games that he's had it now, it is definitely tighter in that, but it's also not exactly the same game. So, there's something about like the way that he has his, or they have their sort of last second like lift on their float jump that feels like it's almost like this odd. It kind of threw off my aim, if that's the right way to say it. Like my positioning on some of them. I was like, oh, okay. And I think for the most part, yeah, I think for the most part it was fine. But every once in a while, there's some tight jumps or tight corners, and I was like, damn, like, you know,
Yeah.
So,
And it's interesting too, like the thing I'll say my big complaint about this game is like the pits aren't like there's some areas where you can go down or up, and then there are areas where you can't and they're pits, but it's not really clear which is which.
Yes.
Also, so what I was saying before is like the interesting thing is so you have the flower as health in this game, which has happened in other games. And the live system instead is you have, I think, access to like 6 or 7 Yoshis at the beginning of the game of different colors. And every time you die, they get kidnapped by the Shy Guys and brought to Bowser's Castle. And in the later stages, I think you can actually recover them and find them.
Yeah.
And so like, but if you run out of them, you get a game over. And like, it was funny because like my favorite Yoshis are the red and pink Yoshis. And so I picked the pink Yoshi first. And then I was cruising, doing okay, but by like the 4th level, I fell in a pit that I didn't like anticipate, and he went away, and I was like, no. And so like, but I like that they have this variety of colors, and the Yoshis are effectively the same. They're baby Yoshis because the narrative of the game is like the happy tree was stolen by Bowser, and the adult Yoshis are like in a trance, and so the baby Yoshis that hatch go on an adventure to save the tree of happiness from and bring happiness to the
which
Yoshis.
has all the fruit on it and everything. Yeah.
And so like it's interesting that you're playing these baby Yoshis and like that they get kidnapped instead of you losing lives. Like it was actually a pretty forward thinking narrative thing, because in other Mario games you just die and you start over. It's like it's considered part of like it's not part of the narrative. It's just a video game thing, a mechanic thing. It's a video game thing. It's a mechanic thing. And so like it's one of those things that I like that in this game. It's part of the narrative. If you die, quote unquote, you actually get kidnapped by the Shy Guys.
Yeah, and it's similar because I think that's the same. I mean, that is the same idea they did with Yoshi's Island as well. When Baby Mario runs out of his countdown and he gets down to 0, the Shy Guys carry him away, and that's your sort of quote unquote life or whatever. Right? But I love the different Yoshis. I love how it's not just about like what's your favorite color. Like in some stages, you know, the Shy Guys are a certain color. If they are the same color as your Yoshi, it will give you more hearts. Or and each one, you know, has different colored eggs and everything. Like it's not like they're all just standard green and white. Like all those little things are kind of fun. And certain fruit actually gives you more hearts and more points depending on your color, which is great. Like little things like that, little small touches that don't, you know, drastically change the gameplay or the experience, but it's something. It adds some depth to it. You don't just say, "Hey, I want to pick the pink or I want to pick the green," and go for it. Like, you know, if you're desperate, if you need some more points or you need some more hearts, or you know, you can strategically pick a different Yoshi and potentially get at least a slightly different outcome, and hopefully rescue the pink one that you lost that went down the pit.
Yes. And also I would say that this is one of the better aged games from the N64.
Yeah.
Some game, I mean, I feel like the polygonal look of Mario 64 is kind of timeless, but I think if you gave it to a modern video game player, they look at it and go, why is he made of blocks? But like this, because of the artsy style, that it's like this, it's kind of this Donkey Kong Country-esque, like, you know, 3D, flat 3D graphics on this like crafted world. This is kind of the origin of that like crafted look that then becomes like the thing that Yoshi's known for later.
I had no idea that this is where it was first. I honestly thought that idea. Yeah, I thought that idea came from is it Kirby's Crafted World or Kirby's
Epic Yarn?
Epic Yarn. That was the first time that I personally saw that and in a full game, because I think there's a stage or two in Smash that comes from Yoshi's story. So I've seen that style there, but the first full game I thought was the Kirby game on Wii or Wii U, and I was like, oh, this is such an amazing style, cool idea and techniques. And then I just played this, I opened it up and I was like, oh, wow, this is sweet. And you're right, it 100%, it completely holds up, because that style feels so timeless. That art style and that aesthetic just works.
Yeah, I've heard that Yoshi's Woolly World is actually the best Yoshi game. Unfortunately, it's still stuck on the Wii U. I heard Crafted World. I played the demo for Crafted World, and it was fun, but like it felt like one of those games that if I tried to complete it, I'd want to put a pencil in my eye. But if I just played through it level to level, it'd be fine. But like to get 100% on every level, you have to go through it one way and then go through it backwards to catch all the Poochie puppies, and like it just seemed like a lot. But
all right, well,
I'll probably pick it.
if you do play it, just have no pens or pencils near you. That's all. Just
exactly. Yeah.
Keep yourself safe. All right. We want to make sure you're safe, Matt. Just do
thanks.
that. Yeah.
But I do want to pick it up at some point because I think it'd be a lot of fun, and I do like Yoshi games. But this is where my love of the games came from. Like, again, I liked Super Mario World 2 as well, but I remember as a kid, like, I didn't appreciate it till I was much older, because as a kid I was like, well, this isn't Super Mario World. What is this nonsense?
Yeah.
But once I learned how to play it, I was like, oh no, this is actually really fun, and actually some of my favorite boss moments. And like, I still remember the final stage of Super Mario World 2 where you fight the giant baby Bowser, and it's like a Godzilla moment. Like, it's still one of the coolest moments in old school games. But like, I really like that this game's design and soundtrack and all of it was wholly unique. And like, I love that every time you turn the page, the Yoshis are singing.
Yeah.
Like, it's very much a kiddie game, and it's very much like geared towards children, but it's very cute. I think that if you're looking for a complex and intense platformer, this is not it.
Yeah.
But if you want to play a cute game that you can finish in a couple hours, it's absolutely worth it, especially if you Nintendo Switch Online, because it's the most accessible this game has been in a while, because I believe like actual cartridges of it are still pretty expensive.
Yeah, they are. When I was looking at that, I was just curious. I was like, well, thank God I have I just got the expansion pack to play this, and most recently Majora's Mask, and those are the two that I've played so far, and a little bit of Mario Golf, and I was just like, okay, this is a good package of just these 3 games alone, which is great because these cartridges are just crazy sometimes. But yeah, like you said, it's not super complex. It's not super deep. It's definitely not long. I mean, you can do each level. You can even get probably every, collectible, like the big hearts and things like that, and every single fruit, and make sure there's extra Yoshis. I think there's a white and a black one as well. I can't remember exactly what stage there. I stumbled upon the black one by accident. I think it was in one of the second ones. And then I looked it up. I think I showed you a screenshot. There was in one of the Nintendo Power issues.
Yes.
Yeah, they had like a little hint as to where they were. It was like, oh, I found that one. Haha. Take that, Nintendo Power. I don't need you. But little things like that. You could do all that, and maybe you'd get a couple of replays of levels to get all the stages, but and maybe you'd reach 4 hours or something. But it feels like one of those games that it looks and feels pretty good, coming out in 97, 98 time, like sort of mid N64 era. But you could easily have made this on the Super Nintendo with this type of idea anyway, but it wouldn't have looked the same, and it wouldn't have felt the same, I think. So there's something here that's better. You can get a little bit of better graphics, the music's a little bit better, the sound's a little bit better. You can maybe make things a little bit more complex because the backgrounds and foregrounds look really great. So I think it's not complex, and it's not something that you're probably going to play over and over and over again, but it's definitely worth a couple hours to sink in. And like you said, I think you mentioned it a few times, like, it's actually great for a younger generation to have a game like this available to them. Like, it really is. I wish I had this so I could, at the time, and would have like given it to like my younger cousins and be like, hey, you guys can play this, instead of us always hogging it and playing Smash and GoldenEye when that was too advanced for them at the time, so it's a good time. It's a pretty good time, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's also aged because it's a 2D game. I think the problem with N64 is a lot of the 3D games haven't aged well unless you're playing it on an N64, because they aren't updated for dual analog. Like, I love Super Mario 64. I've done a side quest on it. Like, it's one of my favorite games of all time, but I played it in that admittedly not really well made pack, that the 3D All-Stars pack. And like,
right.
It shows its age because they didn't make any improvements. You're still using the C stick to turn the camera, except it's the right analog stick. You can tap it. But like, I love Banjo-Kazooie 1 and 2. I love Donkey Kong 64, but going back to them on modern hardware is tough. Like, I'm kind of jealous because GoldenEye on Nintendo Switch Online didn't get any changes, but the one on Game Pass on Xbox Game Pass got modern control schemes. Yep. And I would love to go back to GoldenEye with a modern control scheme.
I did that when that was like, I was at the time, again, I didn't have the 64 expansion pack when it first came out, but I did get it recently. But then I immediately went on Game Pass and I played it. And it looks a little like sharper and shinier than it used to, but it honestly makes it a much better game playing it with 2 sticks. Like, it makes a huge difference. And, you don't need that with Yoshi's Story, which is kind of cool. Like, the fact that you can just play it on here on Switch. The controls are very basic. You know, you have A, B, and I don't know. That's the other thing is the sniffing mechanic and the dog and like those things. Like they're there, but I don't know that I really use them.
No,
you know?
I didn't either. Yeah,
like a couple times it tells you to use it. I was like, oh, okay, cool. But you can still progress without doing those extra things. Although, again, to your point that you've said a few times, it's super cute when he's sniffing and they're looking for the fruit. It's great. The
Just
screen
adorable.
sort of like zooms in a little bit too. Like the presentation of that whole thing is such a nice little touch.
It's one of the cutest Yoshi games ever made. Like I think why I love it so much is just because it's adorable and I like adorable things. Who doesn't? I mean, you know, I think it's aged better than a lot of other games at the time. And that's not that those games are bad, because I replayed a chunk of Banjo-Kazooie not that long ago, I think on PC Game Pass, because you can do the iCloud and stream it. And so I did that, and it still plays great. And now it's on Switch, on the Nintendo Switch Online, and like, you know, I think that there are games that have aged far worse than Yoshi. I mean, look at the Kirby game, Crystal Shards, which like I want to love, but it is not a good Kirby game comparatively. You know, it's not awful either, but like I think my favorite thing about Yoshi's story is that it, for what it is, it's done well. Yeah. And it is for all ages. And if you're not looking for, and it does get challenging. I mean, the underwater level, I mean, every underwater level at the time was not great. And this one's not much better. You know, and then the final boss fight is actually kind of challenging. Like it took me a while to take him down.
It's fun. I like the mechanics in that final one, how you sort of have to throw things up and then the bombs are coming down. Like I sort of like you know, I think I figured it out the first time. Like at least I think the initial part, I was like, how do I knock him down? He's kind of flying across the top and everything. It's like, do I knock him? Do I try and jump? Do I use my tongue? Like, what do I do? And it's kind of cool. You bounce things off the wall or off the ceiling, and he kind of, you know, it has the tree there, so you can collect some fruit every once in a while, and it's fun. It's cool to see that kind of dynamic and that sort of presentation and stuff. And like, I think overall the package is simple, but in a good way. And I think that that's totally okay. Not everything has to be the most complex. Not everything has to be an Ocarina of Time or Mario 64 to like blow people away on this console. You can just have a simple experience that does what it needs to do and does it well and is for all ages, really, which is hard to say a lot of the time. And the fact that it's much easier to play now is a huge positive as well. So,
yep. I also want to shout out the music. So the composer is Kazumi Tataka. Kazumi Tataka. I knew I'd get there eventually. And if you find the style familiar, it's because he's done Super Mario Land, the 6 Golden Coins, Mario Paint was him.
Yes.
So same with Legend of Zelda: Link's Awakening. Like he's done a ton of classics.
Huge games. Wow.
Yeah, like he did Yoshi's Story, he's done Luigi's Mansion, like Animal Crossing he worked on, you know, the Virtual Boy Wario Land, Wave Race 64, like he's done some legendary soundtracks. And like, yes, Koji Kondo is, you know, most well known for doing a lot of Mario related stuff, but there were other composers who did some incredible work. And like, yes, the music's a little cheesy, and yes, there's constant singing, which could be annoying, but like I think it's got heart. It's really cute. You know, he'd worked on Wii Sports. He was the composer and sound director on Wii Sports and Wii Music, like tons of stuff. I think he's still doing stuff. Most recently, he did New Horizons. He was the composer for New Horizons.
Oh, nice.
Like he's still working today, and like his music is really iconic. And like I think that the music in this game is just really charming and like really catchy.
Yeah, and that's that. I mean, that goes into the whole presentation of the game, and I think that it's hard to. You may not have the biggest smile on your face based on like some of the simplicity of the gameplay itself, but the presentation will make sure that smile is complete. You know, like that's kind of like what it is, where you're just like, oh, this is okay. Yeah, no, the gameplay's it's good enough. It's fine. It's passable, whatever. But damn, everything is cute. Damn, everything is nice and friendly. And, you know, it's nice to have that experience. You don't always have to have a bombastic AAA blockbuster explosions around it. You can have Yoshi Story and just have a nice fun time for a few hours. And yeah, it's on Nintendo Switch Online, so it's a great way to get it and give it a chance. And I would say add it to the list. Honestly, it was nice to play for the first time. I wouldn't consider my experience when I was a kid to be much of an experience. It was fun. It was a nice little like sit and have my coffee and play it outside on a nice day, which was the way that I experienced it, which maybe put the whole package together for me, I think.
Yeah, totally. I think that it being as short as it is too, it does it a service. Like for me, some of my favorite games, I will replay at every opportunity I get when they're shorter. Like I replayed Metroid Fusion when I had just played Metroid Fusion right before Dread came out, and then when it came to Nintendo Switch Online, I replayed it again because it's my favorite Metroid game, and like it's only 5 hours long ish, and like this is another one of those. Like I will replay this every so often because it's just so short. Like my favorite game of all time is Chrono Trigger, but it takes a lot of hours to finish Chrono Trigger, and I like it. I just have to make the time. But like little games like this are a nice break. Also, like I'd blasted my way through Star Wars Jedi Survivor, and then like I started Tears of the Kingdom, and then like I was getting stressed at one of the shrines, and I was like, you know what? I have homework to do for a podcast. Let's put this down. Let's pick up Yoshi's Story, and it was a great palate cleanser. It was lovely. Yeah. I played it straight through from start to finish, and really dug it. And I'm gonna go back to it because I want to play some of the stages I missed, and like. But I genuinely think it's for the experience that it is, it's totally worth it. Especially if you already have the expansion pack on Nintendo Switch Online, it will cost you nothing extra to play it, and I think it's totally worth it.
Yeah, you could definitely spend your time playing something worse just on Switch Online. So,
very correct.
Yeah, Matt, I want to thank you again for coming back on Remember 64, and just like with Buck Bumble, thank you for suggesting another awesome game. A nice, like you said, palate cleanser is a great way to put it, because in 2023 there's some dark games such as Diablo and even Star Wars in some ways is kind of like dark and serious and long, and this is perfect. You know, if you have the Switch beside you and you got the expansion pack, pick this up and give yourself a little bit of a stress break, and you should be good to go. So, Matt, thanks again. And before I let you go, though, we got to let everybody know where to find your awesome stuff online.
Thank you. Yeah. So you can find all of my work at djstormageddon.com. You can follow me on Twitter, as long as it's still in existence by the time this airs, at DJ_Stormageddon. If you happen to be on Blue Sky, I'm just DJ Stormageddon there because they don't like underscores for some reason. I do a lot of really cool podcasts, including a video game podcast called Fun and Games, which is it's a discussion podcast. Jeff and I talk about different topics within the industry. We do retrospectives. We bring guests on. We interview developers and composers. If you like discussion about video games and people celebrating gaming as a whole, it's a great listen. Also within that feed is a sub-series that Dave has done, a Mario Paint episode 4, which is, of course, the incredible side quest project that I've been working on for 3 years now. And it is an opportunity for anyone, podcaster, creator, or just someone talking into their cell phone. They send me audio and I produce it and release it. And it's them talking about a game they love and why they love it. And it's great. It's a lot of fun. It's one of my favorite things I make because it's just people celebrating and being excited about a thing. Like there's no like, oh, well, you know, this game kind of sucks, but I love it. Like there's none of that. It's just unabashed love for a game that really means a lot to people. And it's been great to hear all the different games that people really love. And so that's
I was just going to say, yeah, actually, I don't mean to cut you off, but there's such a long list of different types of games on there from a bunch of different people that you can find something that maybe you haven't heard of or thought of, like, oh, I should pick that up one day, or oh, it's on my wish list or whatever. You'll probably find it on this feed, and this person, whoever it is, will probably convince you that this is the right game that you should be playing right now.
Yes, exactly. I mean, that's how I discovered the Yakuza franchise, which now I'm a super fan of, is because of someone else who had done a side quest episode. But yeah, and so Fun and Games also has a Patreon. If you want to support a smaller indie podcast, you know, with social media kind of slowly dying, it's the best way to interact. We actually are using our Patreon as a blog now. I wrote an article as when we're recording just a week ago about both Coffee Talk games. We're going to put free content on there as well as the paid tier stuff. So if you want to support us or just go check it out, it's patreon.com/funandgamespod. Otherwise, Fun and Games is on every podcast platform. The other video game podcast I do is called Reignite. It was a Mass Effect podcast, but we've now finished all 4 Mass Effect games. And so we've moved on to Dragon Age Origins, which is interesting. I like the Dragon Age franchise, but Dragon Age Origins, some might say, has aged the worst of most of these games. But we're still having, me and my co-host Frankie are still having a great time with it. So if you love BioWare and you love the Dragon Age franchise, you can jump in. You can also go listen to the backlog, 4 seasons worth of Mass Effect content, which I know plenty of Mass Effect sickos out there who would love that kind of thing. So being one myself. And then I do a podcast called Screen Snark, which is a TV and movie podcast. Previous guest of this show, Dave Jackson, has been on it. We talk about TV and movies, and we bring a guest on to talk about it with us, and then we interview the guest, and it's a lot of fun. Mostly, it's an excuse to crack jokes and make fun of each other, and so it's really a good time. But again, if you don't want to remember any of that, just go to djstormagddon.com. You can find links to all of my podcasts, the Patreon. I have a merch store with mugs and t-shirts and tote bags, all the stuff everyone needs. And thank you, Dave, for having me back, letting me bully my way back onto the show, and bringing Yoshi's story. It really is one of my favorites, and like I know I'll never get to do Kirby because it's been done, and of course all those other big hits, and this was one of those big hits that I was like, yes, I can bring it. So thank you for that.
I'm happy to be of service at the very least.
My pleasure. And also, I really genuinely love the show. I listen to every episode. As of when we're recording, I just listened to the Mortal Kombat episode. I hadn't listened to it yet, Mortal Kombat 4, which, boy, was a rough game.
Yes.
Oh, man, that was a rough game.
I
got it when it came out. But yeah, no, I love the show. Keep doing what you're doing. It's so fun. As a Game Boy Advanced obsessive, which maybe I'll start a Game Boy Advance podcast someday. Not that I need more shows.
You'll be doing it till you're 95. So there's too many games.
Too many games. But like the N64 is one of those consoles that meant a lot to me because it was one of the ones I remember buying when it came out, like I said on my last episode. And so I think just what you do is really fun, and you have incredible guests. And so, yeah, just thank you for having me back. It's a wonderful show.
Thank you. And no, you did not bully nothing. I'm happy to have great people on the show, and especially if they're bringing in some great games. So yeah, check out all of Matt's stuff. They have some awesome work out there. And Matt, thanks again. We will talk to you soon. Well, thank you again, everyone, for listening to this episode of Remember 64. And thanks again to Matt, a.k.a. Stormagddon, for being on the show. So happy to have them back. So happy to find another cheerful, palate cleansing type of game on Remember 64. So hope you enjoyed that. And honestly, like we mentioned, check out the game. It's really worth your time. And it's on the Switch Online service as well. So pretty easy if that is something that you have at the moment. Again, just want to say thank you for listening to the show. And just another plug, that patreon.com/remember64show is where you can find all these episodes early, video content early, games that I've been playing outside of the N64, and a whole lot more. Helps expand the show and do bigger and better things. Give us a rating on your podcast app of choice, of course, and find us on social media at Remember64Show across the board. We have Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, and we'll see as things progress out there. It's a wild, wild west, isn't it? All right, everyone. Thanks again for listening. Thanks for joining me on Remember 64. We will see you next time.